Games rated E to M. Welcome to Nintendo Power Podcast. This episode, we'll answer your questions, go hands-on with Nintendo Labo, and much more. My name is Chris Slate. Right off the bat, I want to thank everybody who sent feedback from last month's episode. As we explained then, these first few episodes are kind of an experiment. We're going to try some different formats, some different content, and we really want to get a sense for what you guys want to hear. So thanks again for that. And as a result, we're changing up the format this episode. We're going to have some sections we're going to bring back from Nintendo Power Magazine. We're going to give some game recommendations, answer some of your questions, and more fun stuff. Also, we're going to give our hands-on impressions of Nintendo Labo. Joining me for this episode is Krista Yang, who many of you will know is the co-host of Nintendo Minute.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Thanks for coming on. And Nate Bildorf, the Senior Director of Localization inside the Treehouse. Hi, Nate.
Hey, guys.
Cool. So I wanted to start with Pros Picks. Now, Pros Picks is used to be a section in the old Nintendo Power Magazine where players would choose their top games, the pros would choose their top games, pros meaning people that worked at Nintendo Power, and strangely enough, the dealers would pick their top games back then too. So we're going to talk about games we've been playing or maybe replaying recently that we could recommend. So Crystal, let's start with you. What have you been playing lately?
So I have been on a long vacation recently, a very nice vacation. So that means lots of time on airplanes. So I was very grateful to have the new Zelda DLC Pack 2, the Champion's Ballad, with me on my trip. And that was just such a great way, I think, to get me back into The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And it was such a meaty DLC. It goes through the story, the backstory of the champions. It really adds this new layer to the game. So I've been really enjoying that. I really took my time through it as well and actually beat it very recently. So yeah, I love it. It's awesome. And I hope that, other people have gotten a chance to check it out.
Yeah, I got to say, I've been digging on that too. I tore through it. I didn't take my time with it at all. I ate
really?
it I consumed it, I think, over a weekend, but it's good stuff, and rolling around on your motorcycle at the end of all of it is really just the cherry on top. It's awesome.
Yeah, what I really love about it too is how sort of layered the experience is. This is like a giant onion of awesomeness that you're peeling away, because it kind of starts out with you doing certain tasks, and that unlocks something, and it sort of unlocks a quest for the Champion's Ballad, and there's 4 of those. And then as you go through each of those sections, it unlocks a shrine, and then you do the shrine, and it unlocks the Divine Beast, and then, of course, it unlocks a bunch of really cool memories about the champions themselves. And I thought that was just a great way to tie that story element from the main game with the Zelda memories into the Champion's Ballad. And that was seriously the best reward, is those cutscenes of the champions and getting a glimpse of them and getting to know them better. And it was just really cool how that kind of unfolded. And then, of course, Nate, to your point, the end ultimate amazing reward with the Master Cycle Zero was just it was amazing. And then you see the little Master Cycle icon on the load screen with the other Divine Beast, and you're just this is the best ever. It's so good.
Yeah. And I also really liked how, maybe this is a spoiler, so I won't say exactly what happens, but the final kind of challenge you have to overcome to get that Meister Cycle,
oh my gosh,
I thought was a huge surprise. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Right. Me too. And it was a very tough challenge, so you felt really rewarded at the end of that. It was something that challenged me for sure. And so when you finally got to the end of that, and you got the ultimate reward, and you're just oh, this is so worth it,
Mm-hmm.
The one of the things for me, I actually wrote a little piece about this on the Treehouse log, but I'm obsessed with maps. I always was obsessed with maps when I was a kid. So doing my end game for Zelda is going and actually trying to get all 900 Korok seeds, which is madness. But it was already fun, but being able to do that with the motorcycle sort of as my means of conveyance to drive around with that mask on, and just whenever it rattles, I kind of put the brakes on, is it's turned my end game into a far more pleasurable experience. And with this game, I mean, how many times have you jumped off of a high point and deployed your paraglider in this game probably 1,000 times when you play through
Right.
naturally. Every single time I do that now, I summon the bike and I Thelma and Louise it off the cliff before I deploy my paraglider. Like that's a mandatory staple for me now.
I love that. How many Koroxys are you up to now?
I'm just shy of 600, so I'm
Dang.
chipping
Wow.
away.
Oh
Man,
my gosh.
it's
You're
unreal.
good.
Though I mean, you'd think I'd seen every part of that landscape. I mean, it's like I've put so many hours into this game, and yet no, every single time I stumble onto a new one of those, I'm like, I didn't even know
Totally.
this canyon was here. I didn't know this little mountain peak was here. It's unreal.
Yeah, when I went back to the game with the DLC pack, it's been a few months since I picked that game up. I was super surprised at how much unexplored parts of the game I still had. It was really amazing, and definitely playing through the DLC gave me a chance to kind of re-explore and rediscover new areas. It was really cool, and I think definitely if you think you got everything in that game, you have not. So go back to it.
Yeah. I found, there were always like the last dozen or so of the regular shrines that I still hadn't found yet.
Yeah.
And I came across a few of those while going through the DLC
here.
content, and that really got me back into that. So now that I've got, just like you, Nate, now that I've got the motorcycle, I am just zipping across the land trying to check off those last few shrines.
Totally.
And got my Korok mask on. You're serious when you're, like you said, you're riding across the land with the Korok mask on. You're on a mission.
Link also looks like a vagrant in that Korok mask and riding on that motorcycle, which I kind of love. Like, he's a very classy character, but it's like, I'm on a motorcycle with a Korok mask. Like, what are you going to do?
All right, Nate, so what have you been playing?
I mean, I dabbled in a lot of games, and certainly binged on the DLC pack for Zelda when it came out. But I gotta say, and it's weird to say this for a game that came out so long ago, I have never strayed too far from Splatoon 2, and I think it's the content dumps, the sort of consistent content dumps in that game, I think are probably the reason why I keep coming back to it. But more so, I think it's just because I really, really love that community. The way that game is set up, you've obviously you can play as little or as much as you want in any given setting. But every single week that a new weapon comes out or a new stage comes out, number one, I just love being a part of the community as it's experiencing that for the first time. Mainly because you introduce a new weapon, like we when we introduced the Brella, I remember going in that Friday when it dropped, and literally every match I went into was like at least it was 7 to 8 people in that match are all sporting the same weapon, and none of us know what we're doing. We're all sort of you're kicking the tires on these weapons together.
Mm-hmm.
So these aren't like highly technical matches where everybody's good. It's more like everybody's really bad, and you're just all experimenting together. I don't know, and it is all anonymous play. It's not like I'm playing necessarily with people that I know. So I really love that sort of sense of exploring things together with the community on the night that it drops. And moreover, I think that for me with Splatoon 2, there's a natural gravitation, I think, for people, especially in shooters, to sort of stick with a weapon that they get good with and then just stick with it forever because you feel amazing while you're playing it. You're winning a lot of matches. But Splatoon 2's, the way it's set up and sort of the whole philosophy of Splatoon, when you play Turf War, it's 3 minutes, you're getting randomly matched. The pressure of winning is completely absent for me. And as a result, I think it really encourages you to go out and experiment with all the different weapons that the game has to offer and all the different sort of builds of your gear that, as far as sort of special powers that you have with your gear. It encourages you to do that because you're not risking anything. It's like, go into Turf War. Oh, so you're bad at blasters. Well, spend a night just playing a blaster. There's no harm in it. Yeah, maybe you're going to be a detriment to your team, but, maybe eventually you'll get good and then you'll be good for your team again. For me, philosophically, I think that slots in really well with the way I like to enjoy games. And as a result, I'm wringing like every last bit of pleasure out of Splatoon 2 on a consistent basis. It's like this week, I've decided to go back to support roles. I'm actually running around with ink brushes right now and just sort of being a pain to the other team, having them chase me into blind corners and stuff like that. It's an entirely different way to play, but I get just as much pleasure out of it. So, yeah, I came back on board sort of when we did the big update at the end of last year as far as the big new gear update. But like I said, we're consistently dropping new content on it. So I was in, when we debuted the Schellendorf Institute, I was in there. I love that. It's a great new map. I obviously was super into the Splatfest last week, even though my action team sadly dropped the ball hard and we failed to win. But other than that, yeah, I'm a regular on Splatoon 2. I'm still having as much fun with it as I did on day one.
I played it a lot right when it first came out, but I was never an expert Splatoon 1 or Splatoon 2 player. But like you said, you can approach it in a different way, and I can feel like I accomplished something even if I'm just spreading paint and kind of avoiding direct conflict. I think hearing you talk, it's reminding me that I've been meaning to get back to this game, and it's been so long since I've played it. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of content that's going to be brand new to me, so it sounds like it's a good time to jump back in.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of new weapons for you to buy.
Yeah, I think like a lot of times when you're thinking about like online shooters, it's very intimidating, at least for me. Like it definitely has that like sense of like, oh man, if I'm not good, like everyone's gonna like hate me or something. But Splatoon has none of that, which I really love that. Like to your point, Nate, having sort of the freedom to experiment. You're not really putting so much effort into one match that if you wanted to experiment, it's like, it's going to really cause you to be delayed in your advancement of the game. So I think that's really cool. And for myself, I really just love like the fashion and the different options for clothing and it affects the game as well. But I just love that whole feeling of Splatoon, that like really cool, like Tokyo vibe that Splatoon has. I think that's just like such a great kind of different and fresh take on a game, on a shooter. So yeah, I need to go back as well and check out some of the new weapons. But Nate, I gotta tell you that I was on the side of Team Comedy, so
oh god,
I don't know if we can be friends anymore, but
Well, we got stomped. Team Comedy came with it.
That's right.
I was pretty sure we were going to win the popular vote just because the icon for Team Action I thought was just unbeatable, and so I figured a lot of people would choose that, and we did. We won that handily. But yeah, the Team Comedy came with some skills. It was good. It was a good shifty station. You guys probably know, but at every Splatfest there's a new sort of stage that's specifically made for that. And this one involved a lot of transparency, both in the floors and the walls, which was just it lent itself to some interesting strategies that frankly you don't have anywhere else in the main multiplayer game. Not only sort of the first realizing that there's an actual floor there that you have to ink, but normally you don't ink walls at all. But there was actually a strategy to inking walls on that particular stage because there were transparent walls that if you inked them, they all of a sudden became blockades that people couldn't see you through. But if you left them uninked, obviously they could see all your movements. So it opened up sort of a new possibility to the game that I hadn't thought about before, and it was great. It's one of the reasons why I love Splatfest. It's just seeing what shifty station is going to be there. It was a good one.
Yeah, I think that's cool too because when you're randomly matched with people in Turf War, it's like the quickest strategic like meeting of the minds ever. You just have to like figure it out within the first 3 minutes, and that's like a cool challenge to kind of take on with a bunch of strangers. Sometimes you get matched with God knows who, on those matches. And it's kind of cool to see like everybody's thought process. And you can kind of do that, in that game, even if you're matched with complete strangers. So it's really cool. Yeah.
Cool. Well, the game that I've been playing most recently is one that I actually was able to get hold of a little bit early, but should be coming out right around the same time as this episode, which is Celeste. Now, this game was shown a little bit on the most recent Nintendo Direct Mini. Have you guys seen it, or are you aware of this game?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's in the kind of the style of, Slime Son or Super Meat Boy, or even going back, a little bit to the Game Boy remake of Donkey Kong in 1994, or the sequel Mario versus Donkey Kong on Game Boy Advance. It's this platforming game, but it has, each screen is almost like a puzzle as well. You have to figure out, how you get from the entrance to the exit. And it's super challenging, really makes you think a lot. It's also one of these indie games that I love that has the old 16-bit pixel style. The basic commands in this game, just to kind of explain it a little bit here, is you've got your regular jump, your air dash, and then the ability to hold a trigger button and grab on and climb any surface. So that's basically it. But there's so many different things they throw at you on each screen that it makes you have to be very creative about how you use those abilities and how you get from one end of the screen to the other. And there's hundreds of screens, so there's a lot there to chew on. But one thing that I really like about this game so far, and I'm about 4 chapters into it, is that it adds on this really cool narrative on top of it. So it's not just the pure arcade challenge of getting from screen to screen to screen, but it breaks up into chapters. So every once in a while you go back to like a world map, and you can replay levels to get better times. You can even turn on a speedrun timer if you want. So it's really perfect for that kind of crowd. And the story is almost kind of melancholy. And I'm actually, at this point in the game, I'm not, it's not really spoiling it because I'm not quite sure what's going on. I'm like, is this a dream? Is this more, metaphorical that you're controlling this character named Madeline as she ascends this mountain, Mount Celeste, and you meet a lot of really funny, interesting characters along the way, and they're all basically telling her, you can't do this, go back, and she perseveres. So it seems like it might be one of those cool indie games that by the time you get to the end of it has a certain cool kind of hidden meaning or I don't know, just something to that story that really makes it resonate. So far, I've been really engaged by that. So one thing I was going to say about it too is that even though it can be really punishing, it's one hit kill, but you do respawn immediately right on the same screen. You can turn on assists if you want. So if you want to ease your way into the game a little bit, you can give yourself more air dashes. You can make yourself invincible. You can even slow down the speed of the game.
Boo, Chris.
I haven't turned those on.
I don't think you would have, actually, because I don't know if people know, but Chris is an amazing platformer. And actually, when I saw that game in the Nintendo Direct Mini, I was like, I bet Chris is going to play it. It's going to be good. I'm so jealous.
So that's my favorite genre. I mean,
I know.
That's what the original Super Mario Brothers on NES is what made me a lifelong gamer. So I love platformers, and if for people that really love platformers, this is a really good challenge with a lot of meat to it. And again, like I said, for those who need to ease into it a little bit, you've got those assists. Which my son, who's 7, loves games, but this one would definitely be too tough for him.
Yeah.
But we turned on a couple of those assists last night, and he was able to play, and he was really getting into it. So
do the assists last for like the whole level, or is it like is there like a time limit on those?
Oh no, yeah, they just you turn them on and they're just permanent until you turn them off.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I need those. Don't boo me, Nate. But
No.
I'm not a strong platformer, so I would need
I'm
those.
totally kidding. I'm a huge platformer freak as well, Chris. I definitely I'm going to consume that game in extreme prejudice. But I really appreciate the way sort of the elegant solutions we have toward getting younger, less skilled players into platformers, because I don't want to ever see that genre die. I want young kids to get into it, and I don't want them to get frustrated by games that are meant to sort of challenge you and I, people who grew up with platformers with really hard challenges. Having some assists in there that are purely optional in order to get a wider audience, I think it's a great thing. I won't boo. For real. It's just,
Absolutely.
That was a casual boo.
Let's move on to Warp Zone. Now, we did this last episode. This is going to be a quick quiz where I see if you guys can guess certain games for Nintendo systems that came out 10, 20, or 30 years ago.
Oh, man.
And I've warned you both beforehand. These are a little bit challenging. Looking back on the games that came out in past Januaries, I don't think January is generally a very busy month for a lot of new game releases. So some of these may be a little on the advanced side. So.
This is literally the most nerve-wracked I've ever been, by the way. So, okay, Chris.
All right, here we go. 10 years ago, in January of 2008, Grasshopper Manufacture developed an M-rated action game for Wii in which the hero used a beam katana in a town called Santa Destroy. Any guesses?
No More Heroes?
That's right, No More Heroes.
Yeah.
Good one.
I love that game, by the way.
Yeah, it's
like
pretty
one of
memorable.
And that character, Travis, is one of my most memorable characters. I just love that character so much.
Yeah, and he's
On the
coming back on
Switch.
Nintendo Switch, yeah.
Yeah, so excited.
All right, now 20 years ago, this is January in 1998, Crave Entertainment published a remake of a classic arcade game for Nintendo 64 that was a twin-stick shooting game where you would blast waves of robots.
Oh, man.
This is a tough one.
I have no idea.
Chris, you promised good clues.
It has Robo in the title, and it has Tron in the title. Robotron 64. Yeah. Great guess, Robotron 64. Remake of Robotron 2084.
I never
classic
played that.
arcade
Was it good? I never played it.
I never played it either.
I didn't either. I played the original arcade
Exposed.
game. But for people that don't know, you might remember Smash TV. It was kind of a precursor to that kind of game.
Totally.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
Another tricky one. 30 years ago. This is January of 1988 now. Data East published a side-scrolling action game for the NES that featured a bare-chested, fire-breathing Russian strongman with a mustache?
Oh.
Any guesses?
Oh my God, I know this. Does it start with a V?
No, but it has a V in it.
It's like Karnov.
That's it.
Yes.
Karnov.
Whoa!
I knew there was a V in it.
Nice. 2 out of 3. Not bad, you
All
guys.
right.
All right, we'll have to make it harder next time. It wasn't that hard.
What do you mean?
Dude, that was hard.
Brutal.
All right, so next we're going to move on to Player's Pulse. Now, longtime Nintendo Power Magazine readers will remember that this was the letter section in the magazine, and we asked over Twitter for you guys to send in any questions that you might have. And thanks so much. We got a lot of great questions. Now, unfortunately, we can't answer ones that are specifically about unannounced products or unannounced game details and things like that. But we'll answer as many as we can here. To start off with, we have from Brandon Miracle. In what ways does being a part of the Nintendo fan community change when you're inside the company? Nate, do you want to start with that?
That's a good question. But before I answer, I just want to say that this was always one of when I wrote for the magazine for several years in the late 90s.
That's right. You worked on Nintendo Power Magazine.
This is always one of my favorite sections. So I just wanted to say that. But boy, it changes dramatically. I think for me, the two biggest issues were, number one, immediately having to clamp down on my public enthusiasm for Nintendo products when you found out about games before they came out. Having confidential information during development. You're, as a Nintendo fan, you're bursting with excitement. You want to talk to people about it. You want to sort of spread the joy, and having to clamp down on that outside of the office, I think, was really one of the biggest challenges. But sort of as a side note to that, for me, one of the toughest things to get over was losing the experience that everybody who doesn't work at Nintendo has, which is seeing a game in its final polished form for the first time. That experience is so sort of magical because you're playing this awesome masterpiece. You played Zelda, for the first time, and it's a finished product, and it's great, and you get the sort of the whole experience. Working in development at Nintendo, you see those games in sort of such like early and broken and sort of unfinished states long before the games actually get finished. And so you sort of get spoiled to all kinds of stuff that you really, as a fan, you don't want to get spoiled. It's like, I don't really want to work on this game. I want to play it when it's finally done. And so I don't see sort of how the sausage is getting made behind the scenes. For me, that was really, really tough to get over because it's something that's basically gone forever. There's very few games now that I get to see sort of whole cloth that the same way that a fan out, just buying the game when it's on the shelf, the way that they get to experience it. That experience is we just had to let that go once we started working in development. So for me, that's how it changed.
I mean, I think working here in it of itself definitely makes you appreciate the amount of passion and sort of work that goes into each of the games that we come out with. We're so lucky. I'm certainly very lucky to be able to spend time with our development team, with Nate, with your team, and just to see the amount of love that goes into each game just makes you really appreciate it. That this is like somebody's true passion. They're putting everything of themselves into this and making this experience into something that the world now gets to enjoy. So kind of, I get your point about, seeing it before it's completely finished is really tough sometimes because you don't want to be spoiled. But I think that the flip side of that is that you do get to see this joy that they have, that our development team has making these games. So that's really cool. And then the other cool thing for me is being here is like a built-in Nintendo family. So like I love how when a game comes out, we're all playing it all together. Like when Breath of the Wild came out, we all started playing at the same time. We would talk to each other every single day about like, where are you now? Did you get to this part yet? Did you discover this shrine? It was kind of like back in like grade school when you would go to the playground and talk to your friends about that latest secret in Super Mario World or the latest thing you did in a Pokemon game. But I get to do that as like a 30-year-old adult, so that's pretty cool. So I mean, I quite like that about having sort of like a built-in Nintendo family, all the time around me.
That was something I was really happy to discover when I first started working here is, at most other companies, if you can find one or two other coworkers who are as into Nintendo games as you are, then that's just great. But here, it's almost everyone is not just working at the company, but is really familiar with the games, playing the games, and there's such great camaraderie here. And for example, when we have Nintendo Directs, we'll show those here on the screen in the middle of the office, and everyone will gather around and get excited.
Yeah, we'll still cheer for stuff and get excited about games that are coming out. Or if you ever want to just take a break to like play Mario Kart for a little bit, there's somebody here that will definitely more than one person. Definitely, you can get like 8 people to stop working and go play with you for like 20 minutes, and that's pretty awesome.
Yep, totally.
All right, next question comes from Colorgeist. This is essentially the same question. How fun is it working for Nintendo? I think we probably covered that.
Pretty fun.
Really super fun.
Super fun.
This one's from Chump. Chump, you should really be nicer to yourself. Got any fun localization stories? Nate, this is all you.
Oh, man. How long do we have? Let me. All right. I got one. This is back when we were working on the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, which was of course a GameCube game, one of my favorite games that I've ever worked on. I did the English writing for this game, and back then we've really stepped up our game recently. We have a lot more sort of visibility into the different parts of games as we're working on them. But back then, you'd be working in the files, and really the only way that you'd actually see the scenes were to literally play through the entire game. And you could, sometimes occasionally you would have debug commands that would let you jump to things, but by and large, you'd want to play through it. And as a writer, I wanted to play through things naturally anyways, because that would help me sort of make sure that all the text was appropriate and was flowing correctly and sort of felt right to somebody doing their full playthrough. So, of course, it's a natural thing in development for you to start working when the ROMs are really broken and are really incomplete, and this was no different. So I played the beginning of that game probably 20 times while I was doing my rewrites. But because the ROM was incomplete, you'd inevitably come into a lockup, or you'd come to some place that you couldn't proceed. So I hadn't really seen the end of that game, and I'd written sort of the very end of it based on a very good translation from our staff, without actually seeing the cinematics or seeing how things played out. And so I obviously wanted to see this part of the game to make sure that everything was looking good, especially because Ganondorf's monologue at the end of that game I thought was really, really important. I wanted to make sure I got it. And he had this one line at the very end of the monologue that I just didn't understand. The translation was fine, but I didn't understand what he was talking about. It's a line about the wind blowing. And heavy spoilers ahead, so anybody who has not actually at this point finished The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, you should turn this off because this is the very end of the game. But I finally got to the end scene, and as we all know, it is sort of the dramatic moment at the end of this game ends up with Link standing on Ganondorf's face after he stabs him in the forehead. And I mean, I dropped the controller when I saw it. It's just because it's an awesome scene. I mean, the first time you see it, you're just like, that was not expected, and it's one of the coolest things I've seen in a long, long time. But my immediate reaction was, oh my God, did the ESRB team see this? Because this, the art style of this game was very, obviously it was very young. I mean, I think the expectation as we were playing it through all the content was that it was firmly an e-game. And face stabbing for me, all of a sudden, I was like, this sounds like maybe a T-game all of a sudden. And so there was this mad scramble that day because nobody in America had seen that scene up to that point. And the team in Japan wasn't, necessarily thinking about what ESRB concerns would be. So I remember this absolute mad scramble that day as I was running around and trying to get people to I had to reload the save and try to get it on video. And there's a huge amount of panic going on, and it ended up being for nothing. We actually ended up getting an E rating. I think this actually predated the E10 rating. I think nowadays probably that would get an E10, but at the time we stayed safely under the T. But it was a rather dramatic day in the office that day for me. But I did end up being able to finish the scene, and the line finally made sense to me at the time. So, and it remains actually one of my favorite monologues in any of the games that I worked on. So it had a happy ending, but that's just, trust me, I literally could sit here for 8 hours and tell you localization stories, but that's one that sticks in my mind.
We'll have to have an 8-hour podcast sometime.
That's right.
Yeah, you could just read stories all night. It's great.
All right, the next question comes from Rob Edmiston. He asks, in your opinion, what is it about all the many franchise characters in Nintendo's arsenal, such as Mario, Link, Samus, Donkey Kong, etc., that allows them to be so everlasting?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think our characters seem very relatable, and they're all differently relatable to different people. So what I mean by that is, like Mario, for example, one of our marquee characters, is someone that you want to root for. He's a hero that you want to help and you want to see, win and do great things.
He's kind of a scrappy underdog.
Yeah, exactly. He's very likable. Or Samus has great characteristic traits where, if you kind of admire that element of a person, you can kind of relate to that as well. So I think that's, for me, that's what makes our characters kind of memorable, is that there's a piece of each of them that I kind of either want to help or want to see in myself. So yeah, I think that makes it kind of a unique catalog of characters that we have at Nintendo.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think on top of that, they've each earned their way towards immortality by great gameplay. I think every single one of our stable of characters has great games under their wing, and that's what won people over. I think without great gameplay, they're sort of just images, and every single one of those, for various reasons, have earned their place in the pantheon.
And I think also a difference between franchises that have stuck around for a long time and those that haven't is, I think the ones that have stuck around managed to not only have like a great base to build on, like a great original game, but also they continually introduce fresh new ideas, so that it doesn't start to feel too stale, or it can also kind of evolve with changing tastes. And it's also, I think, generational. I think, as a father now, I think about, these are the games and these are the characters that I really responded to when I was a kid, and now I want to share that with my kids as well.
Yeah, it's cool to see the characters almost grow,
Yeah,
as
totally.
if they're real. You look at Link, from the original Legend of Zelda game, and you look at Link in Breath of the Wild, and you're like, wow, this character's really evolved along with the franchise itself. So it's almost like they have this life to them, which is really, really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
Except Kirby. He still looks like Kirby.
Yeah, it's okay though. We still love him.
Yeah, we do.
He's still eating. It's fine.
Next we have from Zachary Steer, asks, what games are each of you most looking forward to playing in the first half of 2018? And similarly, Gator EX just asks, what are you most what are your most anticipated upcoming games? So either first half of this year or 2018 in general, what's been announced so far? What are you guys looking forward to?
So I am actually looking forward to replaying Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Oh yeah,
I was really excited to see that game come into Switch, and of course the addition of Funky Kong is really awesome. But that was a game that, being a not so great platformer, that I really challenged myself to play and to really try to master a little bit, So just really excited to see it coming to Nintendo Switch, and I can't wait to give that game a go again. I think I still need to beat that last boss too, so maybe this is when I finally do it.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I'm psyched to. I 100%ed that game, but I will do it in a heartbeat again. It's one of the best platformers ever made. I personally am beyond that also really looking forward to Mario Tennis Aces. I have always loved the Mario Tennis series, and the reintroduction of a story mode is just got me drooling. Everything I've seen about that game so far has really, really piqued my interest. So I'm psyched to get back into that.
Yeah, I actually was really excited to hear that that game had a story mode. I love the Mario sports games that have like that story mode. So I'm really curious. I'm sure you know a lot more than I do, Nate. Secrets about the story mode, but I'm really looking forward to what that actually entails.
Yeah.
Should be interesting.
Same here. I love the tennis game for Game Boy Advance. No, Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Color,
That
yeah.
had story mode?
Color.
And that's my thing ever since. Every golf game or tennis game, I'm like, please have a story mode.
It's so good.
And I would also add, first of all, both of those games are on my list, but and several others. But maybe the one that I'm looking forward to more than anything else is Shovel Knight King of Cards.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness. Here we go again with the Shovel Knight.
I love
you.
Shovel
I
Knight
know.
so
Yeah, I
you
dig
are
Shovel
like
Knight, too.
diehard Shovel Knight.
And I cannot wait for King of Cards.
I'm
All right.
curious about that because it's so different than, the normal Shovel Knight gameplay, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Spectre Knight campaign and also the Plague Knight campaign, both of those, the control styles are so different from standard
Yeah.
Shovel Knight that you really have to relearn the game, and the game just starts to feel totally new again.
Yeah, I think that's really clever how they're able to kind of reintroduce these really different types of gameplay to get you back into the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, when it's all said and done, the whole Shovel Knight package is just going to be ridiculous with how much stuff is in there.
I know you have bought it for like every platform at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I have like Quattro dipped at this point.
Yeah, I think me too. I really do. It's totally worth it, so it's fine.
All right. JD Harrison asks a very poignant question. What life lessons have you learned from video games?
Oh.
Oh, man.
I would say that, and I don't know if this is strictly it strictly answers the question, but I would say find a way to do what you love, because as a kid, that's what I loved more than anything was playing games, and I ended up getting into video game magazines and now working at Nintendo. So for me, video games have really been both my hobby and also my career. So I think if you can find a way to merge those two, then that's the ideal.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I think we all share that sentiment for sure. I think maybe I love puzzle games. So I'll say like find a way to see creative solutions to problems. I think, video games has always taught me that there's always a solution out there, but it might be not what you expect it to be. So don't be afraid to like try crazy ways to get to your end goal. And sometimes it might be not the right way, but just keep trying and you'll eventually find it.
Wow, yeah, I'd say this isn't a great life lesson, but I'd say what you can't achieve with skill, maybe you can achieve with persistence.
Yeah, that's a great lesson.
That's good.
Yeah, that's I think what games have taught me. I'm a stubborn gamer.
All right, next we have JCRV asks, can you please add a new Funky Kong mode to every single game you make from now on?
Done. I have no control over this, but yes.
Yeah,
There's a Funky Kong mode
we'll
button
make
in
that
the
happen.
office, and we just hit it whenever
Yeah.
we want that to happen.
Exactly.
I'd like
Nate,
to see,
that's a Nate job. We'll give that task to Nate.
Yeah, I'll my next trip to NCL, I'll
Yeah,
bring that to.
that's a fun
point of order.
conversation to have.
I would appreciate a Funky Kong mode in Dark Souls Remastered, just
Yes,
to make
please.
that game a little easier for me. You can just see him like
Surfboard.
surfboarding on top
Yeah.
of their
Surfboard.
heads, hanging loose while they're all trying to be all gory and serious.
and
All right, and Jonders FPT asks, what does Kirby feel like?
I
Is he
love this
cold
question.
and slimy, sticky, or furry?
Okay, I've formulated the perfect answer to this question. He feels like a warm stress ball. Like think about a stress ball, and when you squeeze it, it has like a little give, but you could squeeze it, but it's like body temperature, so like 98 degrees stress ball.
Yeah, I like
Yes?
that. I always wanted to believe that he sort of felt like velour too. Just because
Oh,
he's,
yeah.
He's very soft looking, and there's not necessarily any like visual indicator that he's velour. I've never actually seen that, but I want to believe it.
70s tracksuit
Yeah.
velour Kirby.
I once ate a Kirby cake pop, so that's my impression, is that he both feels and tastes like a cake pop.
Oh, it's a little, slightly like.
Like fondant.
All right, so now we're going to get to kind of a lightning round here. We got a lot of questions just asking what our certain favorite things are. So let's just rattle off some quick answers here. All right, Nico asks, what is your favorite Animal Crossing villager and why?
Is Isabelle a villager? Kind of.
Presumably she lives in the town.
She does. She's my favorite. because I am her.
Isabel.
I identify with her a lot. I don't know why.
I like randomly. I like this duck named Mael, and I can't explain why, but I like this duck named Mael. That's it.
He's just a solid guy.
No, it's a girl.
Oh, solid girl. I like. This is cheating a little, maybe. I like KK Slider. He just kind of shows up. I don't know if he's really an inhabitant. I also like Cap'n when he's just singing.
Oh,
his
yeah.
little songs
That's a good
are
pick.
so sweet.
The more musically inclined
Yeah.
villagers. Max Robinson asks, who is your favorite Super Smash Brothers character?
Nate.
Oh.
He didn't specifically ask who if this is your main, so I guess it could be like who you like to play as or just who you like in general. In the
Yeah,
game.
that's tough. I think I would have to pick generationally, I think, for individual games. But I'd say overall, I think Ness is. I sort of connected really hard with Ness in the 64 game, and then just sort of stuck with him ever since. I mean, I play a lot of different characters, but I think Ness has just always been my favorite.
You kind of have a Ness look to you.
What?
That's a compliment.
It's the big head.
I like it. I think it's cute. I like Zero Suit Samus because that's literally the only character that I'm not going to say good or even decent that I can maybe play as. Maybe. I'm not a very good Smash player, but there you go.
I'm going to say Little Mac just because I was so happy to see that character come back and be included in the last Smash Brothers. And also he's just so satisfying. All of his punches just land so hard and he's a lot of fun to play, even though he can't really jump.
Yes.
V. James asks, what is your favorite Kong?
I like Diddy Kong.
Diddy
I
Kong?
like all the things about Diddy Kong. The hat, the shirt, the peanut gun, the hovering, all the things. It's great.
I'm old school. I like Donkey Kong. One of the reasons why I like the Donkey Kong platformers is just because he feels heavy. He just feels heavy, you know. And that sort of seems antithetical to a platformer where you sort of expect to be light and bouncy. You can really feel the weight of that Kong. He feels powerful. I love Donkey Kong.
I would pick Donkey Kong too, but I'll also say as a runner-up, Funky Kong.
Okay.
Because I started out hating Funky Kong, and then when he appeared in Mario Kart Wii, he was just so over the top, you know, funky that he came back around to being entertaining for me, and now I look forward to Funky Kong and everything.
Won you over, would
Yeah.
I say? Okay.
You can't slow him down. Haters don't slow down Funky Kong. He's just hanging loose in every game he appears in.
He's who he is.
Yeah.
He is himself all the way.
All right, Super Mr. Cool Boy. It's very not shy, that Super Mr. Cool Boy. Who is your favorite partner from Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door for the Nintendo GameCube?
Oh, Nate, your history with Paper Mario.
That's right, my
Thousand-Year
favorite.
Door.
Was this the first game that you worked on?
No, that was the original Paper Mario. Was the first game that I worked on.
Oh, okay.
But Thousand-Year Door is probably my favorite game that I worked on. And as such, I probably have two favorites. My favorite as a writer is Goombella, just because
gosh, yeah.
her and Goombario from the original one, that is by far the most text that you have to write for anyone because they literally have something to say about everybody in the game, you know, whether they're an NPC, an enemy, or an area. There's so much text in there that unless you're really diligent, you're not going to read. And so as a writer, it's sort of my favorite because I just wish everybody would read all that text. It's good text.
I read all the text, Nate.
But otherwise, just pure on pure gameplay and story, I think it would be Admiral Bobbery. He's like, his story is really sad, which seemed it's sort of sad and happy at the end, but you know, it seemed a little deeper than most when we were working on the game. I thought his story arc was really satisfying, and I just like him as a battle partner. He's got I liked Bombette in the original one too. I like his attacks, so it's sort of cheating picking two, but those are my two.
I'm going to say Goombella. I like the tattle ability, and also one of my best favorite memories from that game is, and it's been so long since I played it, I'm probably going to get some of these terms wrong, but there's a part in the game where you go into like a optional challenge area. It's like multi-level dungeon, and the final boss of it is like a big skeletal dragon. Or no, I think so, if I remember that. Maybe you can correct me there, Nate, if I get something wrong. But And I remember when you use the tattle ability, Goombella tells you, it basically warns you, look, this is harder than the actual last boss to the game.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I, by the skin of my teeth and a lot of lucky kind of rolls of the dice at the end, I managed to beat that. And I remember feeling
Like triumphant.
like
That's an achievement, man. That's not easy
That's
to get.
pretty
Even just to
crazy,
get
yeah.
down there is really tough.
you know what's very sad is that I was determined to do all the side quests before I finished the game. So I got to the point where I'd finally unlocked the 1,000-year door, but then I went and did the side quests and then stopped playing, and I never went through the door to the end of the game.
Oh man, you should
Do it
you
now.
Go back to it.
Yeah,
I
you
will.
should.
It's the oldest game on my on my pile of games to
On
still
your
get to.
backlog.
Oh man.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Next question here is Geo asks, what is your favorite amiibo?
Squishy Metroid will remain my favorite amiibo until we make another squishy amiibo.
That's one of my favorites
Man.
too.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't beat it, really.
I was gonna say either that or Mega Yarn Yoshi, but I think if I had to pick one, it's the Duck Hunt amiibo, just because
Okay.
amiibo to me, the coolest thing about it is so many of those characters you can't believe that a toy or a figure exists for that character, and I think Duck Hunt exemplifies that the best. That Duck Hunt came back in any way, shape, or form is
Or like
amazing
the
to me.
Mr. Game & Watch one. It's like that's
Yeah.
and a figure now too. It's like kind of along the same lines as the Duck Hunt one.
I like my. I have the Guardian amiibo with the posable legs.
Oh, yeah.
I wrap that thing around like my coffee cup, and depending on my mood, I don't know. I dig it.
That thing is massive. I did see that someone had made that into a stand for their Nintendo Switch, and I was like, genius.
Oh wow, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
All right, final question here from Ninwed: Waluigi or Wario?
Wario.
Yeah, I
This
gotta
is like
go.
word association game.
Yep, I gotta go Wario too.
Yeah, I gotta go Wario. It's kind of unfortunate because Waluigi usually just gets to hang out when when they need an extra guy to fill out the baseball team
I
or
know,
something.
seriously.
But he's kind of a creep, and and I do love me some Wario Land games and
Yes.
WarioWare games. So it's got to be Wario. Let's talk a bit about Nintendo Labo, which was recently announced. It was actually announced on January 17th. A huge surprise. Just to go over some of the basics for people who may not be caught up on this, it's kind of a kit. It includes, there's a software component. There's also a building component with these cardboard kits. So the theme here, or the tagline, is make, play, and discover. You create these Toy-Con using that interact in various ways with the Joy-Con controllers and the Nintendo Switch console. And then it all comes together with the software to just create these really interesting interactive experiences. So, the making part, the kind of discovering how it all works. There's also customization you can do, and then using the software. It's all kind of equally important. Two kits come out on April 20th. The Variety Kit, which includes, you can make a piano, a motorbike handlebars, fishing rod, a little house, 2 RC cars. And then there's a robot kit where you kind of build this full-on robot suit that interacts with a robot on the screen in the software, where you can even like kneel down and then the robot will transform and flatten down into a vehicle mode. So those are, like I said, those are both coming out April 20th, along with a customization kit, which includes some stencil sheets and sticker sheets and some tape. So first reaction when you guys first saw or heard about Nintendo Labo, how did it immediately impact you?
I just love it because it was so true to what I expect from Nintendo, which is to go completely against the grain of what everybody else is doing and just be really creative and make you, love something as plain as cardboard. But it has like Nintendo Magic Dust on it, so of course it's awesome. So
Yeah.
that was my initial reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The first time I saw it was a while ago now. I felt like a kid. It made me feel like a kid instantly. Just seeing the potential there for not only just for pure fun, but for stimulating creativity. You could just see the first time you saw it. And maybe that's just the nature of sort of the do-it-yourself cardboard nature, but it really just instantly set my mind afire with like, what could I do with this? There's the software and here's what it can do now, but what more can I do with it? What's my own experience with it going to be? it just instantly transported me back to being a kid looking at games for the first time. So it's a really exciting moment.
Same for me. And it's, when I see things like this now, like I said, having a 7-year-old son, the first thing that pops into my head a lot of times is how are we going to play these games together? And for example, we played hundreds of hours of Super Mario Maker together. And my son specifically, there's just always cardboard all over the house. He's always cutting and making his own creations. He even subscribes to this monthly kit that comes that helps him build those types of things. So immediately I knew, and I had to sit on it for a while. I couldn't tell him about it until I could show him the video at the announcement. And he was, as I expected, he was really excited. And so I'm really looking forward to doing these with him.
I think one of it's really important to see. I mean, you can see it in the rollout that there's equal weight being placed on sort of the different acts that this stuff brings to the table. It's not just play. Making it is a part of the experience, and then discovering what makes the way it works and why it works is part of the experience. That aggregate sort of, I don't know, it's something that I feel like only Nintendo could do because it's so weird on the surface. If you think about that as an elevator pitch at NCL, where they're just like, here's my idea for what we're gonna do next. You just picture somebody's eyes falling out of their head as they're sort of considering it. But now seeing it in the state it's in now, you can see the genius of that. It's not. It makes you think not only about why you're having fun with games, but what's beyond that. What are the meta games I can create on top of this game, which is I think familiar to anybody who's been a long time gamer. I think go for it.
Oh, I was gonna say I think that kids and Nintendo fans, people are so creative. I can't wait to see what creative things people come up with that go beyond just the sort of the basics of these two kits.
And now we all got to actually go hands-on with this and assemble, some of these kits. And one of the things that really jumped out at me that I don't know you necessarily get just from watching the video is just how fun the instructions are, because it is literally a 3D model of on the Nintendo Switch screen of the project that you're assembling. And then you can use the touch screen to kind of rotate it and look at it from any angle. You can kind of slowly go backwards or forwards.
And it shows you how it's folding and things like that. And I love how you could kind of zoom in on different sections of it to see in detail how pieces are kind of coming together as well.
Oh yeah. No, it has spoiled me. The idea of going back to traditional paper instructions to assemble my desk is horrifying.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It literally is. It's like the future of construction because it's so clear. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it makes the process fun. Like if you're a little stumped on something, you can kind of work with the on-screen instructions and almost kind of discover that little missing thing you hadn't caught before. And even just that in of itself, I thought was fun. And also, I did it. We put these together with small groups of people, and I really liked the teamwork. How people would assemble different parts and then help each other if we were getting a little stuck. And we didn't have any kids there that day. It was just all of us adults, but we all felt like kids.
Kids at heart.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, totally. I think it was really fun to do it in groups, and we kind of in my group we kind of gave everybody a different little role. Okay, your job is to kind of punch out all the cardboard and lay and organize it, and then the two of us will look at the instructions and kind of read it out to the group. And so we kind of divvied up the tasks, and then it's extremely satisfying when you can start to see it come together. And everybody was just getting so excited as we started to build our little, we were building a little house, and it was as it started to take shape, we were and had these aha moments. We all just got so giddy like kids, and it was a ton of fun.
Another thing that, we working in the house too, and we almost finished it, but we ran out of time. But then we were able to try out a lot of the other finished kits. And one of the things that's really neat at that stage is just seeing all the little details they packed into the software. The house was a good example where you can see some of that in the video, but all the little cranks and knobs and buttons all do different things and also kind of do different things depending on the combinations. So you kind of spend a lot of time, even though you made this, you spend a lot of time just discovering what you really made and how all the little ways that it works. And there was a lot of surprises, as you kind of mess with the software like that.
I had a huge grin on my face the whole time I was tinkering around with this over the development period. And one of the reasons I had that is I was just picturing constantly 10 years from now, some, a 18-year-old or a 19-year-old applying for a job in engineering or in something, in some sort of digital work. And this was their introduction to it. That's going to happen. This is going to be, I can see it as being just a catalyst for, young creative minds to just start interacting with the world around them. And the idea that we can help sort of spur that along is just great. I mean, it's great that games are fun. We obviously like enjoying them, but it's doubly great when you can see it having a positive effect, I think, on the younger generation or the older generation, on anybody. And I did want to say that I wanted to put a plug in for Rich Amtower's term, which he coined during development, which is cardware. And I don't care. I don't care if the internet has somehow coined this phrase as well. Rich definitely did it first because he saw it before you. Internet, cardware. I'm telling you, it's very appropriate.
Well, we've put the world on notice.
That's right.
Well, we're just about out of time, so I'm just going to say thanks again for appearing on the show, Krista and Nate.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thanks, Chris.
That's it for this episode of Nintendo Power Podcast. Once again, I'd like to thank our guests, Krista Yang and Nate Bildorf, and also ask again that you help shape the show by letting us know what you thought, what you'd like to see, or just send us any questions you might have. Now, I can't promise that we'll respond to everything, but we'll definitely read all of your comments and take them into consideration. You can reach us at Nintendo Power Podcast at noa.nintendo.com. Also, if you could take a second to leave a review, that really helps the podcast get discovered by more people. And be sure to subscribe so you'll always get the next episode as soon as it's ready. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thanks for listening, and keep playing with power.